Yo everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a review, showing you like a mini tutorial, as I always do while I'm talking, of the brand new eyeshadow palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is the Amrezy palette, or Amrezy palette, however you want to pronounce it. I say Amrezy because I'm just so used to saying it. Amrezy is one of the largest fashion stroke beauty influencers on Instagram. I would definitely say she's more fashion than makeup, even though she does show some makeup, but not really that often. She's more fashion, but she has done a collab with Anastasia Beverly Hills in the past, way back when. I loved that eyeshadow palette. I still have that eyeshadow palette. So when she announced that she was releasing this one, I was really excited to see what she was going to come up with. So first off, this retails at £49, which is pricey. And the reason being, there is an extra 2 eyeshadows in this palette from the normal 14 shadows that ABH normally releases. So that's the reason why, but they ain't made it cheaper, so you're still paying for it. Anyway, so let me first show you guys what the actual palette itself looks like up close. So Amrezy absolutely loves pink. It's her favorite color, so that's the reason why she decided to do this sparkly, glittery, gritty kind of feeling palette from the outside. I actually quite like it, but then I am a big fan of pink and Barbie related stuff myself, so that's why it appeals to my aesthetic, but it may not appeal to others. Fair enough. So this is what the inside looks like with 16 eyeshadows all together. It comes with a brush. Whoops. ABH's brushes are actually pretty good. This one has got a fluffy one on one end and a flat brush on the other end. I actually used it in today's tutorial. Their brushes are actually pretty good, which is not normal when it normally comes to other eyeshadow palettes where you get a free brush. It's got a large mirror on the front, and that's the arrangement of all the shadows right there. And in case you're wondering, because I'm sure you're wondering by now, why she dressed like that, I'm on my way to a wedding. I'm actually going to a wedding in East London in the next hour or so, so I thought, let me get ready on my channel, show you guys the kind of makeup that I've done. This is actually wedding makeup, if you want to call it. It's general, everyday Charlene kind of makeup, to be fair. But I just thought I'd share that with you guys in case you're wondering. I borrowed this outfit off somebody, by the way, so don't ask me where it's from because I don't know. I think it might be from India. So anyway, let's start off with seeing what ABH actually has to say about this eyeshadow palette on their website. So it says, Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy palette boasts 16 all new, all Amrezy shades, so you can achieve everything from your go-to daytime eye makeup to ultra glamorous evening eyes. Recreate every Amrezy makeup look you love with this versatile palette, featuring everything from classic nude eyeshadows and playful rosy tones to seductive smoky hues, from mattes and metallics to our most insanely pigmented glitter finish yet. And a quote from Amrezy herself: I wanted to make a palette that had every shade you would need for any mood, any occasion. It comes with your everyday neutrals, your pinks for when you feel flirty, and your smoky shades to kick things up a notch. This one palette is my new go-to for creating any look I can dream up. So basically, it's the way that it's described is that it's a palette for everyone. Do I agree? Completely. This will work well across the board for all skin tones. I like the fact that despite the fact that she is very fair-skinned, she is Eastern European, and yet she did not cater just towards her own skin tone, which I love about this palette. Obviously, the fact that it's got an extra shadow in here, you can't complain. I like the mix-up of mattes and metallics, and there are some pressed glitters in here as well. Unfortunately, I believe that they are plastic glitters. Thought we'd move past that, but whatevs. There are 6 matte shades all together, and they range from a fairer kind of caramel brown to very deep and then a black. And then there are 7 metallic shades, 1 satin shade, and then there are 2 pressed glitters in here too. So you've got a nice variety of different types of textures, which is great. Now, unfortunately, some of these are described as not being intended for the use around the immediate eye area. That really annoys me when it comes to eyeshadow and pressed pigment palettes. Why are you bothering to put it in here then? If you're going to tell people you can't use it on your eyes, but you know everyone's going to use it on their eyes anyway. So I think really, it's 2020 now. People really need to stop doing that kind of thing. If there are specific ingredients in here which are not eye safe, then don't use them, you know? And those are the shades called Liddy, which is actually the pressed glitter. Cupcake, which is a metallic pressed pigment. Gemini, the other pressed glitter. Reezy, which is a metallic pressed pigment, this bright pink. Shemsa, which is this cranberry coloured matte shade. and then Hugo, which is this plummy brown on the end, are apparently not intended for the eye area because all of them are pressed pigments. Now, pressed pigments are very different to eyeshadows. Pressed pigments are basically as it is described. It's a pigment which has been pressed into a compact format, is very, very highly pigmented. A little bit goes a really long way. Like with all of Anastasia Beverly Hills's eyeshadow palettes, they are very, very, very intense in color, and you have to tap your brush very slightly onto the actual shadow itself, tap it off, and then apply it. What you'll find is there's quite a lot of kickback, but you'll minimize that if you don't dig your brush in. If you dig your brush in, a lot is going to come off and you are going to use up that shade very, very quickly. So just bear that in mind. Now, in terms of the palette itself, the quality of everything is absolutely amazing. It's very typical of Anastasia Beverly Hills. She very rarely releases eyeshadow palettes that are poor in quality. Generally, I tend to give them a 10 out of 10. I would say that this one is a 10 as well. More so because there is such a variety of shades in here. There is definitely something for everybody, from warm tones to cool tones to pinks to golds. There's even a turquoisey teal sort of shade, a black. I like the fact that there are two very similar kind of browns as well. So one's a little bit warmer, one's a little bit cooler. Then you've got a darker brown and a very dark kind of plummy brown as well. So you're going through the whole spectrum there. I like the fact that they've whacked in a couple of the pressed glitters as well. I have used them on their eyes. They're perfectly fine. They stick to the eyes without the need of using a glitter glue, which I love. I like the variety of shades in here too. I think they are very typical of what a lot of people tend to go for. Golds are definitely the kind of shades that everybody generally tends to love. Pinks, I personally love pinks. Pinks may not be for everybody. There's like a Barbie baby pink, and then there's a more deeper pink. So technically there's only really two pinks, because Cupcake is more of a lilac-y sort of color, which is what I'm wearing on my lid. You've got a nice lighter gold, a deeper bronze, and then you've got Anastasia, which is like a peachy sort of shade. So overall, I'm genuinely very, very happy with this palette. I would actually give this palette a 10 out of 10. The way that it performs is absolutely beautiful. You do have to be careful a little bit with the shade Shemsa, because it is that kind of plummy cranberry sort of color, which can be very difficult. Obviously, again, it says you're not meant to apply it to the eyes, but I have, and I'm wearing it today, and it can go a little bit patchy and can be a little bit difficult to blend, but I blended it out with the black and then it was perfectly fine, and everything blended out together. You can layer the shades really nicely as well. You can definitely go with everyday looks with this palette, as well as nighttime looks, as well as wedding looks. You can go for everything with this palette. So I think that quite a lot of you will love this a lot. I got mine from Look Fantastic. It was actually gifted to me. Well, sort of. Basically, they said, do you want to work with us again for 2020? I said, yeah, why not? They were like, well, pick something from our website to review. And I was like, well, I wanted the Amrezy palette because I was going to buy it anyway. So basically, they gave me the opportunity to actually get it from them. All of the shades in this palette, the names are obviously related to Amrezy, or Amra, which is what her actual real name is. Her real name ain't Amrezy. So you've got names like Barb, because she calls her little followers Barbs, or she likes Nicki Minaj, something like that. Hugo, because she's from the formerly known Yugoslavia. Shemsa, I believe, is her mum's name. Leo is her husband's name. Anastasia, because obviously Anastasia Beverly Hills. Reezy, her nickname. Anyway, so I'm going to now swatch all of these for you, and so that you can see what they look like against my medium skin tone. Hopefully this netted sleeve. Again, this doesn't belong to me, so I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't want to damage somebody else's clothes, because they'll kill me. Right, let's go with this first shade here called Wasted. Wasted is the only satin shade in the whole palette. It's like a very pale pink with slight shimmers in it. It's almost pointless against my skin tone, but I tend to use this on my brow bone. This next shade here is called Barb. This is what I'm wearing on my tear duct. I absolutely love Barb because it's got a duochrome sort of finish. It's a metallic-y lilac sort of shade, like a pinky shade, and it's got like a lime shift to it, which is why I'm wearing it today, because it really goes nicely with my outfit, but it's a really gorgeous shade. This next shade is called Liddy. So this is one of the two pressed glitters. As you can see, it's got like a copper kind of look to it, and it's got lavender sort of sparkles, but it sticks very nicely to the skin, especially once you start to layer it. I tend to apply it with my finger. This next shade is called Cupcake. Cupcake is also one of my favourite shades, so I'm wearing it on my lid today. It's a beautiful pressed pigment. It's a metallic lavender shade and will look amazing on all skin tones. This next shade is called Dragon. Right, this is another metallic shade and it's a golden copper shade. Absolutely gorgeous. This shade here is called Leo. Leo is a metallic turquoise blue, really pigmented and a stunning colour. This is the kind of shade that looks amazing on the lower lash line. This next shade here is called Gemini. Gemini is the next pressed glitter shade. It's described as an antique gold with silver sparkles, which is exactly what it is. It's also very gorgeous, layered on top of other shades. And then on the end we've got Gorgina. This one looks amazing on brown skin. It's a metallic shade. It's like a taupey brown. Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really pigmented and intense. This shade here is called Reezy. And this is a metallic shade. It's a bright candy pink and it's also a pressed pigment. Really, really intense and gorgeous. Not safe for the eye area, but I wore it on my eyes and I wore it to work. This next shade is Anastasia. This one is quite a delicate shade, but still intense in its own capacity. It's a metallic shade and it's like a peachy pink. And when certain light hits it, it turns gold. Really beautiful for everyday wear and for the spring. All right, now we're moving on to the matte shades. And the first one is this one, New Yorker. Oh, I said it right that time, I think. Sorry, I didn't press it that hard. This one is a beautiful caramel matte shade. And it's a great transitional shade and blending shade. This next one is called OG. This one is another matte shade. You can see how similar they are, but the previous one is a little bit more orange and this one's a little bit more neutral, but beautiful nevertheless. Very easy to blend and pigmented. This next one here is called Shemsa. While it's a beautiful colour, it's still one of the more difficult ones to blend. It's a pressed pigment and it's a reddish plummy kind of colour, like a bit of cranberry, but beautiful nevertheless once you manage to smoke it out, because I'm using it on my eyes today. This one here is called 1988. Yay, 80s babies. This one is another matte shade and it's a deep brown. So these ones work really nicely with each other because you can layer them on top of each other depending on what kind of look you want. It's very intense, very pigmented and easy to blend. This one is called BK, which I think stands for Brooklyn because she's from Brooklyn, I think. This one is a matte black shade, pretty decent quality matte, not too difficult to blend, can be slightly patchy, but once you give it a little bit of the elbow grease, it's perfectly fine. And then you've got the last one here called Yugo. And Yugo is also a pressed pigment and it's a plummy brown. This one came out slightly patchy, but that might be because that's in the crook of my elbow. So forgive me for that swatch, it's a bit crap. But the product itself is pretty decent. I would still say that these two brown shades and that brown shade perform better than the other three. But this is the entirety of the Amrezy palette. Okay, so that's it for the swatches, which was difficult to take off, let me tell you. It proper sticks to the skin, especially the pressed pigments. They stain and they stain hard. But either way, I love this palette. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Remember what I've said about the mattes. Go in with a very light hand and build up the colour because they can be very pigmented. And then in regards to the metallic shades, I personally find that they are best applied with the finger, but it is obviously down to personal choice. My nails, for some reason, they're shorter on this hand and they're longer on this hand. I don't understand what I've been doing. But because I'm right-handed as well, this nail length is just about long enough for me to be able to apply it to my lid without poking myself in the eye. If you've got really long nails, you're going to have to use a brush, I'm afraid. But if you've got shorter nails, definitely try using it with your finger first because you get a much more intense result than when using it with a brush, which can slightly shear it out. So that's just something for you guys to remember in terms of the way that the application works. Overall though, I think that this is a lovely palette, great for the spring summer months coming up. Finally, the weather is starting to get a little bit better, even though if you can hear rattling noises, there are gale force winds outside, so. But it's still sunny. Anyway, I'm going to go now because obviously I've got a wedding to get to. Hope you guys are wonderful and great, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.